Welcome to the Brian Wright Audio Experience, a podcast dedicated to helping entrepreneurs grow their business, make more money, and successfully navigate through the chaos of life, all while working, spending, and stressing less. And now your host. He's a husband, a father of two, an international business and life coach, and a trusted motivational speaker for some of the most respected companies in the world, such as Invisalign and many others. Brian Wright.
Hey everybody, welcome inside the broadcast booth. Brian Wright here. Welcome to the very first episode of Season 2 of the Brian Wright Show. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas with family. Took some time off, got away, hit the reset button, getting ready for 2024. December is a crazy month for me because between running all the companies, dealing with just making sure the customers are taken care of, our employees are taken care of, and then it's the reset button for brand new content with the New Patient Group podcast with a brand new episode that came out this morning as well. If you want to go check that out. The New Patient Group podcast, this is the first time you're checking in. The message is directed at business owners that happen to be doctors, orthodontists, dentists, plastic surgeons, things like that are very much in a sales environment, meaning that if you go and you type in Invisalign as an example into Google, you're going to get 20 options within 15 minutes of your house. So you got to remember that those people they're trying to get you through their doors as well. They're trying to convince you why they're the place to buy. And that's what my New Patient Group company does. Inevitably, it's teaching experience, sales, consumer psychology, verbiage presentation, digital marketing, business coaching, life coaching. We do it all under one roof. A very robust company, very popular over in that space. Well, that's what this podcast is. It's all about how to increase your prices and convert at a higher level, how to create fans of your business, not customers. And obviously a lot deeper than that as well. But anyway, good to be with you. Happy New Year. Like I said, getting 2024 kicked off. For many of you who listen, this is a new podcast. This is the very first time you've listened to this podcast. Podcast is new. And so many people out there of our followers have seen me speak on stage, really convinced me to start it. And so we already have a big following, and we're getting thousands of downloads an episode already of the Brian Wright Show. And I decided, we kicked this off a little bit late into last year. And I decided, when it gets to November and December, I am really speaking for Invisalign and a lot of other big companies, I've really got to start preparing to just get, content ready for the next year. And make sure that you're always coming up with something new and staying ahead. As a content producer, as a speaker, as a business and life coach, motivational speaker, the thing is, it's beautiful, and I love life, and I love so much helping all of you out there. But, and there's a big one in there, is that I have this in my head where you're really only as good as the last time someone sees you. So whether it be a podcast or they see you on stage or I come into their business, you better be on top of your game. So there's that pressure there, and it's great pressure. But that's what I'm really doing is prepping for the following year. And so many of you know I like to fly. So I have a purpose to this story. But my flight instructor, when I was getting my pilot's license, Preston, and I got my license in Houston, and then he got hired by a private jet company. So he flies families around, business people around. He's flying right chair first officer on Concords and Learjets now, and he's really enjoying it. Well, he shoots me a text. He landed in Colorado Springs a few days ago, and he sent me a text. He goes, "Didn't you move there? You around?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm here. Let's go hang out." So we took him to, we have this lodge in Flying Horse in Colorado Springs, and it's just a beautiful steakhouse. It overlooks the mountains. It's a hotel, a gym, a golf course. It's absolutely immaculate. And matter of fact, and I'll tell you here, we're having a customer event in January, just here in a couple weeks here at the lodge, and I'm going to talk to you more about that here in just a little bit. Anyway, he drives out to the house, so I show him around, and then we go and sit at the bar at the steakhouse for a while. We're talking, and when you fly planes, most of the time things go well, but there's always those moments. Well, Preston was up with a student, and they're flying there's practice zones, and what those are, you're out of the pattern. You don't have to worry about running into light poles or anything. It's a safe area, and you bring the plane up to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 feet, and you practice things, and it could be turns, banks. In this case, they were practicing stalls, and you practice stalls just in case, it accidentally happens to you in the quote unquote real world, you know how to get out of them. And they're up at 4,000 or 5,000 feet. And what you do is you slowly but surely pull back on the throttle to the point where the plane doesn't have enough speed to stay in the air. And when you do that, and it's very hard to describe, but the controls become very mushy. It's like a wet sponge. It's very weird. And then all of a sudden, you just start dropping out of the sky. And there's procedures to get out of it. You push the throttle, you go back to full throttle, you push in so that you point the nose down, and you regain speed. And when you have the proper speed, you're able to pull up and resume flight. And what you don't want to do, and it's a natural human tendency, is when you start dropping out of the sky, people want to pull back on the yoke, right? You want to pull the nose up. And when you do that, you're dead. So it's very important to go through these. And so anyway, he tells the instructor, okay, let's go through slow flight, and then we're going to go into a stall, and we're going to practice getting out of it. Well, the student, instead of pulling back the throttle slowly, just who knows, maybe he panicked a little bit. Who knows what it is? And he just yanks it as hard as he possibly can, and yanks the throttle, the lever, off of the plane. So when it came off of the plane, thankfully, it came off when the plane was still in flight and had enough speed to fly. So otherwise, they would be dead. Preston would not be alive telling me this story. And as it happens, Preston's thinking, oh my God, I can't believe, what the hell did this idiot do? And the speed is past red line, and Preston's kind of analyzing all the dials, all the instruments on. This was a Piper Archer airplane they were on, which is big. The Cessna 172s, the Piper Archers, they're big planes for schools because you can beat the hell out of them, and they still fly, and they're relatively low maintenance. So you see a lot of those when you're getting your license. And thankfully, like I said, he didn't yank it off when it was, all the way to the point where there was no speed and they crashed. So the good part about it is they still had speed. So, they're calling and they're on with air traffic control, and air traffic controls, and, hey, look, you can go to Hobby Airport. You can land in Ellington Air Force Base, which is where we kept our plane. We had a Cirrus. And a really neat airport, because when you're coming in and you're on with air traffic control, you could be in the pattern with fighter jets and just large planes. It was a really cool airport. So anyway, he chooses to go back to Pearland where they took off, and Pearland's the airport that I got most of my takeoff and landings, most of my practice. And it's a non-towered airport that is very busy. It's a dangerous airport because there's a lot of traffic for not having a tower. So you're communicating with other airplanes where you are. And that's where he chose to go back to because he was most familiar with that airport. And they get back on the ground, as they're coming in, he has the student pull the power to where you pull what's called a primer, and eventually it shuts off gas to the engine. It just shuts your engine down. And that was the only way they could reduce the speed needed to land the plane. And he's telling me this, and it's just crazy. And I did a podcast this past season 6 of the New Patient Group podcast, if you want to go check it out. And it talks about adopting the great leadership, how to become a great leader by adopting the best trait of professional baseball umpires and of pilots. And that podcast, it's a really good one to go check out. And that one, I was an umpire in professional baseball for a while, and the premise of that podcast was the best leaders, they can handle themselves well in chaotic times. It is so easy when life is going good to live your best life. It is so easy when your career is going good to be happy. It is so easy as a business owner when you think things are going well to make better decisions and be a better leader and build a great culture internally for your employees. But when the shit hits the fan, that is the true test for all of us out there. How good of a pilot we are, how good of an umpire. You've got somebody yelling at you in your face with 60,000 people in the audience on national TV. How do you react to it and get back to what you do at a very high level? And I want to say to all of you out there, the reason why I brought this story up is Preston handled it so well. He was even on the radio, he said, kind of making jokes to calm down the student pilot. That, remember, the student pilot's in the captain chair. So Preston, the instructor, you're in first officer right seat. And he just wanted to make him feel as comfortable as possible, but he analyzed the situation. He looked at the dials. He made the right decisions on how to get back to the ground. And a lot of you out there, the true test for how you do as a business owner is when the economy's down, when the shit hits the fan. And it's been weird. We came off of COVID, then there was a couple good years, and then now we've had a couple bad years from an economic standpoint. And you've got to remember that the true test of who you are, how good your business is, how recession-proof you've made your business is in a down economy. And what you can't do is blame a down economy or conditions for if you didn't have a good year. So I want to commend all of you out there if you led your organization and you were calm and you made your employees feel comfortable and you led your organization like a leader, the best leaders do. In 2023, I want to say great job to you. I know my customers out there, shout out to you, whether you be with Right Chat, New Patient Group, or you hire me as your business and life coach, or you bring me into your business to revamp the customer experience and the salesmanship and all that stuff. A big part of what we work on and what I talk about on here is culture. So many of you out there as business owners are tricked into thinking you need average. It's funny, and I'll probably dive into this later in this podcast, but you listen to these restaurant shows like Restaurant Impossible with Robert Irvine, or when Gordon Ramsay goes into these restaurants, and you hear these business owners, and it's all the same shit, right? It's we need more exposure, we're in a bad location, not enough people, we need more advertising. Meanwhile, your food sucks, your ambiance sucks, your waiters don't know how to sell. You don't know how to look at your numbers right. You run it like a business owner, not an entrepreneur, right? But it's always somebody else's fault. And the premise, that we're going to get into today after I give a few updates, the premise is that's the same thing with all of you. If you had a down year in 2024, 2023, if whatever it may be, you have employee problems, if you're somebody out there going, well, Gen Z and millennials don't want to work, you have high employee turnover, meaning that you lose your good people, but your bad people stay, which is a big sign that you have the wrong culture, right? You lose the good ones and the bad ones stay. And a lot of you out there have that problem. Like, I can't keep my good people. Well, you can't keep your good people because you're not a good leader. You don't have a proper culture. You don't have things set up to where you bring the best out of people, because that always keeps your good people and it gets rid of the shit. But those are all things that you have to fire yourself, because you have to do things completely different. And that's what we're going to be diving into today, is a whole new world of doing things for your business in 2024. Employees listening, if you want to advance your career out there, a whole different way of doing things in 2024. If you're just checking in for the first time, I mentioned this in other podcasts in season 1 about really inevitably what this show is. And this show is more... it's listed as a podcast, but this is very much a contemporary radio show. You are going to have me have podcasts that are an hour and a half, 2 hours long, telling stories, bringing it back to the point. You're going to have other ones that are much shorter. But I love doing what I do, because if there's anything that you're ever going to get out of me, it's going to be having me tell you that you are the problem. And man, oh man, that is hard for people to hear. But today, I think we're going to change some mindsets. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of today, just some updates so you know out there. So we have New Patient Group Iconic. So MPG Iconic is going to be in Flying Horse in January, here in 2 weeks. I have customers and their teams flying in. It's a big business and life coaching event, team training event, digital marketing event. And, it's kind of all on one scope, because as a business, you're a story. And so many of you out there don't understand, probably one of the most important things you can understand is the story that you're creating for your prospective customer, and then the people that have bought from you, which are even more important than the prospective customer. And that all starts with the leadership and culture. It all starts with your digital marketing, how your phones go. I'm going to have several podcasts around the phones, because for all of you listening, the small business owners out there listening, the phones are your largest lost opportunity, period. There is no other larger lost opportunity cost for a small business than their phones. Period. End of story. The problem is that you can't see that on paper. And we're not going to dive into that today, but when we do, it's going to really paint an image to all of you out there, the millions of dollars that you all lose because of lack of training on the people who answer the phone, not answering the phone when people are calling you, shopping around, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, on down the line. There are so many things that we teach on the phone. It's part of the power of persuasion and how you get people psychologically committed to buy before they've even really truly experienced your brand. And there's a lot of in-depth things that I teach around that all over the world. And your receptionist is your ultimate sales machine. A lot of you don't look at it that way. You look at it as they say hello, they collect data, they relay stuff, and you use them as a data collector instead of a sales tool. And we'll revamp your thinking in many podcasts. But the MPG Iconic, back on that is something we are going to launch here to the public. Based on how, we want to work out, I want to say work out the kinks. That's not what it is, but I want to test it with our customers first. We have some select customers coming in with their teams that have been with us for years. And it's going to be, I believe, the most epic event any of you could ever possibly attend. And just to give you some details, it'll be about a 2.5 day event. You fly in on like early Thursday morning, starts and goes from about 2 to 5 on Thursday. We go all day Friday and then up until lunchtime on Saturday. And you will never be more blown away and prepared when you go back to your business. You will go back there armed with the tools to absolutely dominate. And I can't wait to see how that goes here in a couple weeks. I'm going to be a week after that. I'm going to be in Miami, speaking for Invisalign, the Invisalign team. Got an all-day workshop we're doing over there. First weekend in February, I'll be on main stage at the OrthoFi event doing Unlocking Your Inner Badass. Can't wait for that. That one's going to be great. We have several. Be in Vegas for Summit, Entrepreneur Summit this year. And we are packed. I mean, we are jam-packed with events. And come find us. Reach out, make sure that you come shake my hand. And I love, when I meet the podcast listeners, they're always excited, but I tell all of them that it means way more to me than it does any of you, because I view all you as the celebrities. I have a great following out there, very loyal following, very underground cult following is how we're actually introduced when I speak on stage, because we don't advertise. You're not going to see... most likely you're not going to see me on YouTube on advertising. Try to get a sign up. We are a word of mouth message, and I love that because it's created a very loyal following. So I want to meet all of you, and I love putting faces to the numbers that are on the podcast stats. So can't wait. And let's dive in. There's so many lies that business owners are told and that we're just told in our lives. And you've heard on previous podcasts, especially if you followed me for years, seen me speak, I talk about the bullshit around advertising and pay-per-click and all this stuff all of you dump your money into. That's an utter waste of money. And there's so many things that are somewhat obvious to me that blow me away that business owners cannot figure out. And, if you're a person that you need more customers, you're having an issue getting the phone to ring, as an example, or when the phone does ring, you have a conversion problem, as an example. You're a person that has high employee turnover, as an example. Your revenue's down, your profit's down. Whatever it may be, you're not getting referrals from your customers. Maybe customers do buy from you and then they leak out the back end, which is such a big problem for for many of you out there. The problem is you. And what you're going to find on this podcast and what you're going to find as a customer of mine, what you're going to find when you see me speak is that is the message. I have studied people for years. And you look at this, you look at the difference between people that succeed and are meeting and exceeding their goals on a consistent basis. And then you look at people that are miserable and you ask yourself, and they're not exceeding their goals. They're not even meeting their goals. Oftentimes they're not even close. You ask yourself, what's the difference? And when I ask that to audiences, I do an exercise, write this stuff down. and you should do this with your employees, by the way, the answers are a lot of times condition related, meaning that, maybe the person that succeeds in making a lot of money, he got to go to college. He got a better education. Maybe the upbringing was better. Maybe they grew up with money. And the list goes on and on, right? The one that's never brought up, and the one that I've studied for years, is the differences between those two types of people are the decisions they make. It's just that simple. You take somebody that, and you could be one of these listenings, has a slow metabolism and you can't lose weight. Well, guess what? There's lots of people out there with slow metabolisms that do lose weight. What's the difference? The condition of the metabolism you can't control, right? There's conditions we can't control, and then there's conditions that are created by our decisions, which we'll organically get into today as well. So again, what's the difference? Two slow metabolisms, one drops weight, one doesn't. The difference is the decisions they make. And we live in such and this is another reason why we have a cult following, that you need to be in the right mindset to hear this, because people don't want to hear this in today's society. We live in a blame everybody else society. It's pathetic. The politicians trick people into thinking it's someone else's fault for the politicians are pathetic. And I can't believe we live in a society that would ever give them more power, which is corrupt, and just the way they bring people down and convince people that they are down because somebody else has done that to you. And it's such a highway robbery of the skill sets, the God-given skill sets that so many of you out there have. Everybody has exceptional talents. It's just, how the hell do you bring them out? And I can tell you that blame is not a strategy for success. We didn't win the game because of the umpire. We didn't win the game because of the referee. We didn't have a good year because of the down economy. We didn't have a good year because of competition. I didn't get the raise at work because my boss is an a-hole. Or, Betty didn't deserve it. I deserved it, right? This is the society we live in. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And I will tell you, just like I said a second ago, this blame is not a strategy for joy, for freedom, for happiness. And this is stuff we've all done. I've done it. You've done it. We all do it. We all get in these states of mind where we play the blame game. And if you look at these people that are blaming things on other people, or they're blaming things on the conditions that you usually can't control, they're miserable. They're not happy people. And a lot of you surround yourself, in the orthodontic space where one of my followings is, in the New Patient Group podcast, et cetera. And that all got organically created over the years when Invisalign, and they're publicly traded. So Align Technology is their publicly traded entity if you ever want to go buy stock. And Invisalign is the clear braces that they make. And for those of you who remember, is that the clear braces, if you've ever done Invisalign or any clear aligners, not braces, aligners, excuse me, is all they are is a lab. So based on how the doctor tells them to make each tray, they just make the tray. That's all they are. So many of you out there, when you do Invisalign, I would highly suggest never buying the cheapest, right? There's a reason why the doctor is cheap. You always go to the premium price place, the one that's done hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands of successful cases, because they're going to design the trays right in their 3D universe called a ClinCheck. Many of you out there aren't thinking that way. You think the investment's in the tool. It's not. It's the person doing the tool. That's who you're buying. Just always remember that. So Align Technology is the publicly traded entity, and when they brought me aboard as a motivational speaker, and again, we teach all the things you're going to learn on here. We teach sales, experience, hospitality, customer service, consumer psychology, verbiage, presentation, digital marketing. The list goes on and on and on, is what I'm up on stage talking about. And then just when that happened, my organic niche of business owners and entrepreneurs just happened to be doctors that own their own practice that's in a commodity. And our other following that listens to this podcast, the Brian Wright Show, is people that have businesses that are in commoditizations, right? How do I survive when there's 5, 6, 7, 10 choices within a given distance of my office, as an example. And we have the recipe for it, and it's the opposite of everything right now that you think you should be doing, like back to the advertising. So many of you out there think that's the problem. The problem is the advertising. It creates all the other leaky holes that you have in your organization, and we'll have plenty of podcasts around what the hell I mean by that. So back to the point of the blame strategy. In 2024, you've got to cut it out. How you finish sentences. This is an exercise that I do quite often, but having been an umpire in professional baseball, it's very hard to sit and watch a game, because I can tell all of you that every rule you think you know, you don't. And every time an announcer on television tries to describe a rule, they're wrong. And I could go on and on and on about, there's several years ago, Sam Holbrook called an infield fly rule in the playoffs. It was the correct call, and he just got butchered by the announcers or there's all kinds of things. What I'm getting to the point of is that so many people think the tie goes to the runner in baseball, and it does not. According to the rule book, in order to be safe, you have to beat the ball to the bag. So if you arrive at the same time as the ball, which technically is mathematically impossible, but if visually you do, you're actually out because you did not beat the ball to the bag. And I bring that up because there's so many times you could go to the same baseball game as me, watch the same play, and leave with a totally different viewpoint of what needs to happen. Right? If you go to a game and it's a tie and the umpire bangs them out and your team loses, you lose all perspective of all the leaky holes your team had in that game, right? You leave going, that umpire sucks, he blew the game. Meanwhile, you gave up 3 runs in the first inning, put your team in a bad place, hit like crap with runners in scoring position, made 2 errors, right? All the leaky holes that you would have to look at yourself, as an example, they're totally ignored, and you put the blame on the umpire. Meanwhile, the other person, like let's say me, who actually knows the rule, I would go and watch that game and leave and go, wow, that umpire nailed that call. That was close. I wouldn't want that call in front of 60,000 people, national TV. What a beautiful job he did. Boy, you know what? We really missed some opportunities in that game. We really need to focus on ourselves on getting better, right? 2 completely different perspectives. One is blaming another party. One is looking in the mirror. And part of firing yourself in 2024 is if you want different things to happen for you, you must make different decisions in order to get there. If you want different things to happen for you, you must make different decisions to get there. One of those decisions that you have to make is that greatness comes from consistency. Greatness comes from consistency. Other things, of course, too, but consistency is one of the biggest missing pieces for all of you out there. As entrepreneurs, how consistent are you at training your people uniquely? How your receptionist speaks and makes people feel when they call your organization? How much content are you producing on your YouTube station? How consistent are you with those 2 things? When customers or prospective customers, either one, walk through your door, how are they greeted? How do you train your people on that greeting? A prospective customer walks to your door, you do a welcome tour. How consistent are you with training on the verbiage? Following up with sales prospects and the words you use and using video. Your process that's involved, whatever it may be, the waiter experience at the table, the manager experience. There's thousands of examples with all kinds of entrepreneurs, business owners listening out there, employees, same way. What do you want your career to be like? Do you want to make more money in 2024? I hope you say yes. Then you have to do things differently. And one of those is that you cannot blame the conditions for whatever situation that you are in. Most of the time, the conditions we're in as humans, we made the decisions that put us there to begin with. Right? I'm going to say that again. If you really dig in and look at a lot of the situations that you are in, oftentimes there's decisions that you made along the way that got you there. Now, there's also things like, again, the slow metabolism example. I use that a lot. A down economy. There's also tons of conditions that we can't control, right? But those same conditions are still happening to the majority of people. So why do some succeed and why do some not? That's why I like doing the exercise of what makes somebody successful versus not. And this bogus thing that a lot of you fall into this trap. Well, he has money. He grew up with money. He had the perfect scenario. He got to go to college, blah, blah, blah. We'll tell you it's all bullshit. And it's bullshit because there are so many people that grow up with everything that end up in rehab centers. And there are so many people that grew up with nothing and become the most influential people in the world. Oprah Winfrey, perfect example. Right? If you don't know her story, you need to go look it up. Not going to talk about it here, but if there's ever a human that was set up for failure, she's it. And now she's one of the richest women on the planet. So all this crap, I can't succeed because of the color of my skin. The politicians love to trick you into that. The color of my skin. Or I grew up poor, so I don't have the same opportunity as the other guy, so that other guy owes me something. Or I didn't get to go to college. Or it's blah, 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 wah, me, wah, wah, wah. And you have got to get over it. It's bullshit. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anybody else. And for those of you out there, business owners, your business is inevitably the employees you surround yourself with, the people you surround yourself with, and your friends and family. That's your business. If you surround yourself with a bunch of people that like to make excuses for their failures, you're going to become that person. It's just that simple. It's just that simple, everybody. You have to fire yourself in 2024. You've got to do things differently, and you've got to do what greatness does. You know what greatness does? So one of the things greatness does is it does things consistently that average people do occasionally. I'm going to say this again. If you want to be great in 2024, 25, etc., whether it be as an employee, working for a business owners, entrepreneurs listening to me out there, whether you want to be a better husband, whatever it may be, father, whatever. If you want to get in better shape and lift weights, if you want to get in better shape and maybe do cardio, maybe that's your goal, whatever it may be, you have to do things consistently because average people only do those things occasionally. There is no easy thing in life. Sure, can you hit the right crypto investment maybe and make 50 million in a week? Of course. What are the chances of that? Are pretty slim. So if it happens, congratulations. But the rest of it is a journey. It's a journey. And blame is never going to bring you joy, freedom, happiness. It's never going to grow your business. It's going to create a shitty culture inside your organization. It's not something that is going to do you any good whatsoever, and it's not the case. We have several customers in a down economy kicking ass, having the best year they ever have, and by the way, not advertising. Because every nickel that you waste on a pay-per-click should be reinvested inside your doors to train people how to sell, how to offer unexpected hospitality, I call it, which I'm working on a book, and it's called Unexpected Hospitality. I'll have more details on that when I get a little bit closer to launching it. And inevitably, the premise of the book is exactly what we teach, is that every interaction you have with consumers as a business better exceed expectations, period. And if you do, you will kick everyone's ass because you will create fans that become your sales force, and most of you don't. You create customers, and you're so worried about the next sale, you're so worried about shooting and hunting a bunch of deer that you forget about the thousands that are frozen in your freezer. All you have to do is learn how to cook them. That's it. All of you are at experience-oriented companies. That's it. Plumbers, lawyers, real estate agents, doctors, restaurants. You've got to get over your product or service, and you've got to understand that your true sales experience, period. Period. When you're a commodity, your service and product is no longer the ultimate sale. It's the unexpected hospitality that you offer. And if you do that, and this is what I teach all over the world, and why it's a niche following, because so many people, what's your problem? Oh, we need more customers. Meanwhile, you missed 5 prospective incoming calls last month at your restaurant, at your plumber office. I love telling the story. This is not what today's about. But when I'm on stage talking about missed calls, let me tell you, everybody right now, small business owners, missed calls is your biggest lost opportunity cost there is, period. And if you all would wake up and pay attention to when you call businesses, what a pain in the ass their phones are. So even when people do answer, it's a mess. But how many times have you called places and you wanted to buy and they didn't answer? Happens all the time. I've got 3 stories when I'm on stage. Kristen, my wife, and I, we wanted new wood floors. And this was a couple homes ago that we lived in Houston. And they didn't answer. We called the wood floor company 1, no answer. Wood floor company 2, no answer. Had to call 3 places. They finally answered. We ended up not buying wood floors, but inevitably they got us into the showroom floor, right? We needed a plumber. Wasn't an emergency, but we needed one. There was a slow leak. Plumber 1, nobody. This is during regular business hours when people are fully staffed. This is what happens to all of you. Called plumber 1, no answer. Plumber 2, no answer. Plumber 3, answer, got the business. Right? Winston, my dog. My kid accidentally hit him with a baseball bat one time. He was swinging in our front lawn. Dog comes up. It was a pretty ugly situation. Hit him in the skull. There was a lot of blood. This was during normal business hours. It was like 2 o'clock. Vet number 1, no answer. Vet number 2, no answer. Vet number 3, answer, got the business. This happens to all of you. If you would just answer your damn phones, you would add 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 plus more customers a month right away. And it's just, these are the leaky holes that are everywhere. And it's not just in people's businesses. It's employees. It's in your careers. It's in our lives. There's leaky holes all over the place. But you have to fire yourself and you have to stop lying to yourself about why you can't get whatever you want to get. More money, more revenue businesses, more profit, more customers, more sales, a better relationship, a better health. These are all things that are obtainable for all of you out there, but you have to make different decisions in order to achieve them. And again, blame is not the decision to make. It's going to make you miserable. It's never solved anything before, ever. Greatness comes from consistency. Everybody doing things consistent that average people do occasionally. You know, I've got this saying, and I love it because it's so true, where life inevitably falls in between the greatest desires you're trying to achieve and your biggest fears keeping you from achieving them. Right? Life falls right in the middle. Now, how far you kind of go on that teeter-totter, if you will, depends on how much you're able to face your fears. If you shy away from your fears and you're always doing the easy thing and you don't look yourself in the mirror and realize your faults, and there's always, for whatever we're trying to achieve things, there's always fear to get there, whether it be fear of failure, fear of what other people are going to say, fear of just not knowing what the hell to do, whatever it may be. And when you avoid those, you don't move closer to achieving all your desires. This is a big, big difference. Just like the blame game, it's a big difference between achieving and surpassing your successes, whatever you define that is. And that's the beauty is you and only you get to define them. This is not, I love saying things like, it's just like installing true customer service into an organization. It's not rocket science. It's a lot of hard work, and there's advanced teachings and there's common sense teachings. But the reason why it isn't common sense and it is rocket science is that there's only a handful, 1%, I call them, the 1-2%ers that actually are willing to invest to making themselves better and their employees better. It's always about, this is why there's so many advertising companies that you go to these big advertising events, there's entrepreneurs everywhere in the audience. You go to hospitality, sales, those things, hardly anyone's there. I say hardly, they're still packed, but compared to the advertising ones, they're not. And again, all this messaging is completely different than what you're going to hear anywhere else. If you have issues, it's because of you. Become a better leader, create a better culture, have a different business mindset. Learn to understand that the numbers that are handed to you on paper are full of shit. Numbers on paper lie. They do not show you all the leaky holes in restaurants listening. My favorite customers are restaurants because I'm a big foodie. I love to cook. And our restaurants just explode. And they explode because of all these things, right? There's no report you're going to be handed that shows you that your waiters don't know how to talk about the wine in a way that gets the table to buy a higher, more expensive bottle while feeling really special doing it. There's no report that you're going to get handed that says Joe and Nancy don't know how to present the dessert properly and your dessert sales are getting hammered. I go to so many restaurants and my head just spins thinking, oh my God, this place is absolutely getting their butt handed to them by how their waiters speak. But see, these are things that are not reported to you when you run your numbers every week, every month, whenever you do it. They're not reported to you. Your waiter's not asking the tables for Google reviews or a video testimonial. Your chef not coming out to shake hands. Your manager not interacting with the customers properly. How they're greeted when they walk through the door. How the valet talks to them. How before they walk into your door for the first time, no welcome video from the chef goes out. No live camera feed coming from your kitchen. No cooking classes being put on to the public to draw more interest. The list goes on and on and on. All of that generates a bukus of millions of added dollars to your restaurants, period. But nowhere on your sheet does it tell you how much you're losing because you're not good at any of it. That's the problem with all of your businesses out there. You focus on what you do know, and what you do know is killing you. I can't wait to do that podcast, and it kind of has the premise of what I'm talking about right now, just off the cuff. Didn't even plan on talking about it. You want more customers? Well, guess what? If you're not getting enough customers, it's not because you're advertising. It's because you suck at creating fans, right? You're so worried about how you get the next customer that you're not worried about the true value, and that's the people that have already bought from you. Those are the people that you should be treating like a VIP. The blame game. Those are the people that you should be asking for referrals. Those are the people that you should enhance their experience to get them to become a fan, if you will, and talk about you all over your life is inevitably. Right now, that starts from the very first time they shop and call before they're a customer, and then it continues after that, further and further and further away. And as that happens, you're going to make rational decisions. If you want a different outcome, that just make the desires keep decisions, and you have to fire the way I'm a big Star Wars that you've been doing things. And Spaceballs, for those of you out there who are probably Star Wars people and have seen Spaceballs is probably more funny to you than it is to other people. But there's some movie clips out of Spaceballs I play on stage, and one of them is one of my favorite scenes of all time, and it's the ludicrous speed scene. And and for those of you who've seen it, you already know, but you know they're trying to chase this target. It's the guy that's supposed to be Han Solo, but it's a spoof movie, so he's called something else. And they blast off into light speed. They get way ahead of Lord Helmet, and Lord Helmet's like, "Okay, we got to catch up." And they goes, "Okay, let's do light speed." He says, "No, light speed's too slow. We got to go right to ludicrous speed." And when they do, it lights up light speed and then ridiculous speed and then ludicrous speed. And they just blast way past the target they're chasing. And then Lord Helmet keeps making irrational decisions that just compound the problem. And as he's doing this, he's moving further and further away from the target, even though he's going faster and faster and faster. And for so many of you out there, this is what you do. As you don't reach your goals, and as you feel other people are surpassing you, maybe you're in air quotes, your competition, which, by the way, for all of you out there, this is a newer podcast. And so I haven't had time to get to everything we're going to be teaching. But one of it is just stop with the competition crap. That's not what your problem is. I'm saturated. I've got 5 Italian restaurants. I've got 5 plumbers, whatever. That's not your problem. The problem is you don't understand how to place more value on you than those other places. That's the problem. That's the problem. And you never do it with advertising. Advertising never creates a brand for a small business. Your brand is created inside your doors, period. The quality of your food, how your waiters speak, how you speak on the phone, how you interact with customers, your ambiance. The list goes on and on and on and on. Your whole business is inside your doors. That's it. All advertising does is broadcast what you want to be perceived as to people outside your doors. That's it. But that does not create your brand. It's a small piece of it. But as so many of you do this, and you're losing customers, and you don't have enough, and you don't have enough new customers, your sales are down, whatever, you start making these irrational, short-minded decisions that are actually moving you in the opposite direction of your goal. And the faster you try to move, most oftentimes, the slower you're going to go because you're not going to check anything off the list. Again, you have to fire yourself. Blame is not a strategy. You've got to get over it. What you make your employees do in private is who they're going to be in public. Right? The things that you practice consistently, remember that the average people do occasionally, or oftentimes it goes from occasionally to nothing at all. But the things that you practice in private consistently will be who you are publicly. This is no different than an athlete, right? Athletes don't get on the court and practice. They play in the game. So many of you out there, your businesses, your careers, when the hell do you practice? You're in the game all the time. Restaurants, plumbers, you should all have at least an hour a week blocked where it's just you and your team. And you're practicing, you're getting better, you're building the culture, you're learning new sales techniques, you're learning new hospitality techniques, you're choreographing your sales journey, your experience journey, right? Every chapter of your organization has to be exceptional and unexpected to the customer. And the only way that happens is if you choreograph it and work really hard and practice and role play behind the scenes, period. You want to make more sales at your restaurant? Your waiters have to be trained on sales. They can't come to the table and say, "Do you want dessert?" No, that's not how you do it. And they also can't just bring a tray and say, "Here's our stuff. What do you want?" They have to be trained on psychological sales components. And I use, and you're going to hear me use restaurants a lot on here because I'm a foodie, been to courses, love to cook, blah, blah, blah. So I just naturally make those references, and I do love restaurants as customers. Like I said, it's my favorite customer to work with because there are so many leaky opportunities. I mean, they are everywhere. One of them is just answering your damn phones. If you answered your phones during regular business hours as well as after, you'd add 10 more tables easily a month. Easy. Overnight. Boom. All of you out there, plumbers, lawyers listening, anybody that's in a commodity where if you miss the call, they're calling right down the list, you're screwed if you don't answer the call. Nobody's leaving a voicemail. Matter of fact, that's what my whole Right Chat company is we answer people's missed calls. Now, we do this for orthodontics and orthodontists and dentists, etc. Then just think about it out there. If you type in Invisalign, you get 50 choices on Google, and you call practice number 1 and nobody answers, what are you going to do? You're not leaving a voicemail. You have no relationship with them. You're going right to practice 2. Think about that. So what Right Chat does is grab it when they miss it, speak as their employee, remote into their software, get you scheduled, and you never know a third party even answered it. And it saves people. It's a real eye-opener. Because, these doctors are charging, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for a case. If they're missing 2, 3, 4, 5 of those a month, you add the revenue up. It's a total game changer. But this is where there's no data that says, "Hey, Joe, you missed 5 customers last month because you didn't answer your phones." So meanwhile, Joe is worried about getting more customers, and he's worried about shit that doesn't even matter. And so many of you out there do that. And again, it goes back to the blame game. It goes back to stats lie. It goes back to you firing yourself and reinventing yourself personally to get the most out of your life, your career, and your business. Stop lying to yourself. The conditions, down economy, there's people that kicked ass in a down economy. Why? If you didn't, it's not the down economy. If you're having tough, if you're dealing in an industry where people are shopping around a lot, like you're one of 5 inquiries as an example, right? We're really going to transform your life on this podcast because that's what I really teach, again, is the commoditization industries. Right? But if people are shopping around, then why are people in your industry who deal with shoppers, why are they charging more than you and converting those people? Right? It's not the condition. It's the decisions you make that got you into the condition, or it's the decisions you're going to make that are going to get you out of it. In 2024, fire yourself, reinvent yourself, and do everything differently. And if that doesn't work, change again. If that doesn't work, change again. And stop making irrational decisions and going too fast. You've got to give things time to work. Marketing plan, customer service training, sales training. This stuff should be consistent, not occasional. I love these people who call us and they're like, yeah, we just trained on hospitality the other month and our employees just go back to how they were. And I laugh. I'm like, no. Training your people is infinite. Doesn't end. Every week, you have to have block time to train to get better, right? And you have to have the discipline of understanding. And this is something we teach the practices, right? That hour block, a lot of them are like, well, we could put patience there. Like, no, you have to have time as an organization to yourself to practice your playbook. So when the game starts and your lights are on, you kick ass in front of the fans. And that's what you all have to do. It'll transform your life, but it starts with you, personally and professionally out there. And you're going to have an unbelievable 2024 and beyond. Look in the mirror. Change is there, baby. It can happen. Whatever it is you're trying to achieve, you can do it, but you've got to make different decisions to achieve different outcomes and get out of whatever conditions you may be in. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Happy 2024 to everybody. Merry Christmas again. Hope you had a great December with family. And if you'll do me a favor, if you could go and write a 5-star review about the Brian Wright Show and make some good comments for us on whatever outlet you're listening to it on, would mean the world to me. And we'll be back with another episode here. And hope you enjoyed the very first episode of Season 2 of the Brian Wright Show. We'll talk to everybody soon. Bye-bye.